On the day of the talent audition, I accidentally stained Consort Shu's dance dress. She looked pitiful and said, "Your Majesty, you must not see her, nor take her as a consort." The whole world knew she bore a striking resemblance to the one the emperor sought but could never find. Whenever she cried, his heart would soften. Pei Lin chuckled, "Then shall I bestow her upon someone else?" The next day, a decree made me the Princess of Su. Being a legitimate wife is better than being a concubine. I was satisfied. Not long after, during a palace banquet, the Prince of Su and I were expressing our gratitude together. Yet the emperor uncharacteristically lost his composure. Before I left the palace, the Empress Dowager specifically asked to see me. I am her niece, a noble lady of the Chu clan. Half a month earlier, she had promised me the position of imperial noble consort. She looked at me and sighed. "You've been frail since childhood, spending 13 years recovering in the Medicine King Valley. In Bianzhou, your parents felt they had wronged you, so they begged me to secure this future for you. The emperor originally approved it, but now, Pei Lin, for the sake of noble consort Shu, is determined to send me out of the palace." Kneeling in the hall, I couldn't help but ask at that, "Is consort Shu really that favored?" The Dowager Empress was silent for a moment. Finally, she merely said, "The emperor cherishes her and treats her as his wife. Ordinary sons of officials often have concubines, yet here in the deep palace, surrounded by countless beauties, he treats consort Shu as his wife." I thought about it. Did His Majesty not say that I could choose one of the princes to be my husband? The Empress Dowager nodded. "Prince Jing has met you before. He is highly talented and handsome. When he heard of this matter, he made a special trip to the palace, declaring that he has fallen deeply in love with you. What do you think?" At this point, there is no room for me to refuse. I was about to express my gratitude, but suddenly, a soft and pleasant voice came from outside. "Marriage is also a matter of fate. I've had a tube of fortune sticks specially made. Why not let Miss Chu draw one, and marry whichever fate decides?" The visitor was none other than consort Shu, Su Jinyu. She looked down at me from her superior position, dressed in luxurious robes, and gave a faint smile. "This is also His Majesty's will." As her words faded, the Empress Dowager frowned but ultimately said nothing more. After all, she was not the emperor's birth mother. I had no choice but to take the fortune-telling tube. Then I gave it a gentle shake. The bamboo stick fell to the ground. Su Jinyu bent down to pick it up. When she saw the name on it, she first looked surprised, then cast an ambiguous glance at me before saying, "It's Prince Su." As soon as she said this, even the Empress Dowager looked up and glanced over. Changfeng. I grew up in Bianzhou and had hardly heard of these people. Nor did I understand why they reacted that way when mentioning Prince Su. But no matter what, my marriage was decided just like that. After leaving Sinying Palace, I breathed a sigh of relief. Actually, not entering the palace would be for the best. That dance dress wasn't even dirted by me. But since Su Jinyu was in the emperor's favor, whatever she said went. I had no way to defend myself. If things are always like this, wouldn't I have to endure grievances for a lifetime? Willow trees swaying in the spring breeze, pavilions with tiled eaves. I walked along the palace path, but halfway, I saw an imperial palanquin approaching in the distance. I paused, stepped aside, and bowed with my head lowered. I could not see the face of the person inside, but I heard his voice, as chilling as the sound of struck jade. "So you are Chu Sanyang." Seeing this, the eunuch beside him reminded in a low voice, "Miss Chu, lift your head quickly and answer." When I entered the palace, I had met this eunuch Li twice, and in order to get better meals, I gave him a few gold ingots, which counted as a bit of favor. His reminder was also out of fear that I might not understand court etiquette and offend Pei Lin. Upon hearing this, I was about to look up, but Pei Lin said, "No need." Only then did I remember he had promised Su Jinyu that he would not see me. I said, "Yes." Just then a gentle breeze stirred, and he said, "I heard you came from Bianzhou. There's someone I'd like to ask you about." I froze for a moment. I thought that the first time he spoke to me, he might seek justice for his consort Shu and blame me, or perhaps he would tell me to wait peacefully for my marriage and be a good Princess Su in the future. But I never expected that the question he asked would be this one. I was about to speak when a voice came through. "Your Majesty, have you come to see me?" You promised you wouldn't see her. Pei Lin chuckled softly, seemingly a little helpless. I only wanted to ask her one question. I don't care, you must punish her. How should she be punished? Su Jinyue's skirt stopped in front of me. I clenched my fists. The next moment, I heard her say, let her kneel here for 2 hours. After a brief silence, the emperor finally spoke, as you wish. On my way back, I could barely walk steadily. My mother, upon seeing the bruises on my knees, was so furious that she smashed her teacup, and inadvertently let something slip. I thought that since you bear some resemblance to Consort Shu in the eyes and brows, you might also look like His Majesty's beloved, but it turns out His Majesty has no interest in you. It seems you resemble that person less than Consort Shu does, but what they don't know is that on the day of the selection, Pei Lin never even had a chance to see me, because Su Jinyu tearfully complained that I had stained her dance dress. What do you mean? Who is that person? She was a young woman His Majesty encountered in Bianzhou in his early years. If she were still here, even the position of Empress would have been within easy reach. Unfortunately, His Majesty feared that someone might harm her, so he has never shown anyone her portrait. I sneered. So this is the real reason you insisted on bringing me into the palace. For 13 years in the Medicine King Valley, they showed no concern for me. I knew it. There had to be a reason why they suddenly wanted to bring me back. I became estranged from my parents not long after. I was married off to the Prince Su's residence. On the night of the wedding, the emperor himself arrived with my bridal veil still on. My hand was held by another man. He clicked his tongue in displeasure. Why has your Imperial Majesty come? Pei Lin walked over and patted him on the shoulder. Born of the same mother, we are. How could I not come when you are to be wed? You know I have no wish to marry. If you truly care for me as a brother, take this bride away yourself. I finally understood why Su Jinyu and the Empress Dowager had reacted that way that day. My so-called husband turned out to be a prodigal who could never amount to anything. Pei Lin sighed softly. What nonsense are you talking? The daughter of the Chu family is famously good-looking, more than a match for you. Pei Changfeng didn't believe it and, right in front of him, was about to lift my red veil. His voice was casual and unhurried. Beautiful or ugly, won't we know once we take a look? The wedding hall instantly became extremely lively. Your Highness, why bother doing this? Be careful, or the bride might not let you into the bed at night. The Chu family produces beauties, rest assured. You won't be shortchanged. Later, bring your sister-in-law along to have some drinks with me. Even Pei Lin stopped Pei Changfeng's hand. Nonsense. Yu Guangzhong found Pei Lin's wrist steady and strong. On the contrary, Pei Changfeng seemed to lack strength, crying out in pain as soon as he was seized. All right, I won't look anymore. Once inside the bridal chamber, the surroundings finally grew quiet. Pei Changfeng lifted the bridal veil and took a look at me. Our eyes met, and his gaze flickered. After a long moment, he finally spoke, a bit awkwardly. You've really done a number on me. Do you realize that because of you last night, Prince Jing came all the way to start a fight with me? The candlelight in the hall wavered slightly. I had been a little nervous, but hearing this, I inexplicably relaxed. I pursed my lips and began to observe my newlywed husband. Very carefully, he was dressed in a bright red wedding robe, with amorous eyes and brows, and a hint of a smile on his thin lips. He was very tall, yet his posture was far from upright, and his words were just as unexpected. But no matter how closely I looked, I couldn't find any wounds on him. Perhaps sensing my thoughts, Pei Changfeng's gaze wandered for a moment, then he cleared his throat, walked to the table, and sat down with his legs crossed. All right, no more joking with you, but your luck really is terrible. Prince Jing is such a good man, and he truly cared for you, so how did you end up marrying me? The emperor is also quite something, losing his head over a woman. He must be an excellent speaker. Before I could even say much, he had already gone on and on. Then I understood that he had never intended to marry me, but Pei Lin was so insistent on having his own way that he even gave away his most prized red-maned steed to him. Pei Changfeng had long coveted that horse, so, after some perfunctory hesitation, he finally agreed, and Pei Lin did all of this solely because of those few tears from Consort Shu. Having said that, Pei Changfeng took a sip of tea. By the way, what's going on between you and the Prince of Jing? That man is cold as ice. This is the first time I've ever seen him like this. I shook my head. I don't know. Pei Changfeng looked at me suspiciously, but I really had nothing to say. The Dowager Empress claimed that Prince Jing was deeply in love with me, but in truth, we had only traveled together for a short stretch on the way back to the capital. We hadn't even exchanged more than a few words. That night, Pei Changfeng slept on the floor. He said, "I can't just take advantage of you the first time we meet. I grew up in the Medicine King Valley." The Valley Master was old and spoke little. During those 13 years, only the medicinal herbs and the chirping of insects kept me company. As time passed, I too became poor at conversation. This was the first time someone had said so much to me. I was taken aback. "Then I suppose you'll have to rough it sleeping here. Tomorrow we can switch." Upon hearing this, Pei Changfeng pillowed his hands behind his head, glanced sideways at me, and said, "I'm not doing this for you. I've never liked sleeping in a bed since I was a child. I prefer the floor." I was left speechless unexpectedly. Someone of his noble lineage had such an peculiar hobby. Early the next morning, Pei Changfeng was nowhere to be seen. According to the maidservant in the mansion, he had gone horse racing with someone. As she spoke, a hint of sympathy appeared on the maid's face, and she quickly added, "His Royal Highness usually enjoys playing these games. It's not that he means to neglect you. I don't mind. No harm. I was just asking." The prince's mansion was very quiet, with servants attending to their own duties. Pei Changfeng not only had no desire to take a wife, but he also kept no concubines or lovers. He showed no interest in beauties or romantic feelings. It was clear that he was simply young at heart, fond of amusement and liveliness. But being with me is truly not very interesting. I spent the entire day playing chess against myself. It was not until nightfall that Pei Changfeng returned. A smile still on his face, he held a riding whip in his hand and said to the attendant beside him as he walked into the courtyard, "This horse is truly brave and spirited." No wonder I couldn't stop thinking about it. Mid-sentence, he caught sight of me and the chessboard in front of me. His smile stopped abruptly. "Why are you here?" Then he clicked his tongue. "Sorry, I forgot I have a wife." He sat down across from me and said with enthusiasm, "How can you play chess alone? Let me play with you." I looked at him. Sure. But after just one incense stick's time, I realized I was wrong. His chess skill was terribly poor, and he had little sense of sportsmanship. I just made a bad move. Wait. Let me take it back." I quietly looked at him. The man smiled sheepishly. "My imperial brother excels in both civil and martial arts, and his chess skill is second to none. Yours is quite good too. If there's a chance, how about I have him play a game with you? A worthy opponent in chess is a rare blessing in life." But the royal brother he spoke of was none other than the reigning emperor, Pei Lin, and between him and me, there was once a rather unpleasant experience. A bit embarrassed, I thought for a moment and changed the subject. "Come to think of it, 2 years ago, I met someone who was also excellent at chess." Pei Changfeng raised an eyebrow and looked at me with a faintly peculiar expression, twirling the white chess piece in his hand. I thought he was going to ask about the person's playing style, or who would win if we played a match, but instead, he just stared at me and asked a single question. "Male?" I nodded subconsciously. Pei Changfeng clicked his tongue and said in an oddly unreadable tone, "Then he's certainly no match for the emperor." My brother, Pei Changfeng, had always been a free spirit, coming and going as he pleased, leaving early and returning late each day. But at some point, he started finding me little trinkets and curios, bringing me my favorite Osmanthus cakes, and brewing medicine for me. "You've been drinking this kind of medicine all along. It smells bitter just from here." I shook my head. "I used to drink something even more bitter than this. But these past 2 years I've been healthier. So I stopped. These are just some tonics the Valley Master prescribed for me." Pei Changfeng thought for a moment, then said, "The emperor has a 9-section Lingji mushroom, extremely rare in this world. If you take it, you'll surely be cured of all your ailments." I've heard the Valley Master mention this before, but unfortunately, it has never been found over all these years. I shook my head. "Better not." Pei Changfeng, however, immediately went back inside to change his clothes and then headed to the imperial palace. I just sat in the yard waiting. It wasn't until the cool breeze picked up that Pei Changfeng returned, looking gloomy. The moment he saw me, he let out a heavy sigh. Chu-hee, in all our time married, this was the first time he had called my name so seriously, without a trace of a smile. He said, when I went there, Su Jinyu was also present. When she heard that I wanted the Ganoderma lucidum, she said she was feeling tightness in her chest. Brother Emperor, Pei Lin chose Su Jinyu at this point. Pei Changfeng fiercely kicked the stone stool in front of him. She's just a counterfeit. If it weren't for the fact that Brother Emperor still can't find that person, where would she get the audacity to act so arrogantly? Under the moonlight, his voice was solemn. Don't worry. Through fire and flood, I will get you the Ganoderma lucidum I promised you. I looked at him after a moment. She let out a soft chuckle. Actually, the Osmanthus cake is sweet enough. On its own, Pei Changfeng's expression flickered. He stared at me as peach blossoms rustled down from above, landing on my shoulder and his coronet. He lifted a hand, pausing briefly beside me, yet in the end did nothing. He simply spoke in a low, muffled tone. This king merely finds it a bit embarrassing not to have outdone anyone. Pei Changfeng is a good man, and he treats me quite well. With his birthday fast approaching, and wanting to return his kindness, I've decided to embroider a sachet for him. Aside from this, I can't think of anything else. His personal servant told me, our prince, you see, has no love for gold, jade, or treasures. His only passion is horses. But he recently lost his sachet pouch, and happens to be in need of a new one. I went alone to the cloth shop. Just as I finished selecting the fabric and stepped out, a horse-drawn carriage came heading straight toward me. There was no time to dodge. Feeling a sense of resignation, I realized this was trouble. I had come out to prepare a gift for someone, only to end up burdening them instead. As my mind wandered in chaotic thoughts, I was pulled into an embrace. Watching the carriage race past me, I was still in a daze, only noticing several people on the upper floor behind it shouting, "Don't, watch out." So, you jumped directly from upstairs to save me. The long street was brightly lit as daylight. After regaining my composure, I looked at the man who had suddenly appeared before me and finally spoke. After a long moment, "It's you." He showed no sign of letting me go. Yes, it was me. For some reason, I suddenly found his voice somewhat familiar, but just as this thought crossed my mind, my train of thought was interrupted. How are you here? After we parted ways 2 years ago, I searched for you for a long time. I froze. This man was the same one who had played chess with me before. At that time, entrusted by the Valley Master, I went to deliver a letter to an old friend of his. On my way back to Medicine King Valley, I saw someone gathering friends through a game of chess. If you win, there are 300 taels of silver. At that time, I had just been robbed of my purse and was penniless, so I played a game of chess with that person by the Tushere River. From beginning to end, we did not know each other's names, nor did we speak a single word. In the end, I narrowly won. Then I took the silver and left without looking back. What do you want from me? I asked. Confused, he looked at me, his throat bobbing slightly. Since we parted that day, I've been haunted by thoughts of you. Startled, I dropped the fabric in my hand to the ground. The top of it instantly became dusty. I had picked it out for ages before finally settling on this pattern that suited Pei Changfeng. The sight of the fabric now stained with dust truly pained me, and I quickly picked it up. The man hurriedly said, "Sorry, I'll compensate you." I shook my head. "No need, you just saved my life." As I spoke, perhaps still startled, I couldn't help but let out a soft cough, my face turning a little pale. Seeing this, he frowned slightly. "Are you unwell?" Before I could speak, he continued on his own. "Right, when I saw you 2 years ago, it was already April, yet you were draped in a heavy cloak, looking terribly pale. Fortunately, I still have one." At that point, as if suddenly remembering something, his voice stopped abruptly, and his face turned ashen in an instant. I find this person a bit hard to understand, and even feel his somewhat baffling. Seeing this, I had no choice but to say, "Thank you for saving me today. However, sir, I am already married." Across from me, the man stood frozen in place, staring at me in disbelief. "Married?" I smiled and said, "Yes, I should go back now. There's someone waiting for me." After saying that, I didn't wait for his response and left directly. While he remained rooted to the spot, as if he had been waiting there for centuries when I returned home. Pei Changfeng was practicing with his sword. Seeing me, he twirled his sword into a flourish and then raised an eyebrow. Speaking of this address, I feel somewhat helpless. A few days ago, I was painting that peach blossom tree in the yard. He had been watching the whole time from the side. Only at the very end, when I felt uncomfortable and asked him if something was the matter, did he slowly say, "Don't you think there's something missing?" I looked confused, but he suddenly broke off a peach blossom branch and gave me a proud, smiling look. "How about painting me, you with your brilliant brush, me with my skillful swordplay? If that isn't a match made in heaven, I don't know what is." I held back a laugh. "All right." After finishing the painting, I was about to get up when my legs went a bit numb, and I nearly fell. He steadied me, his large hand landing on my waist. Without thinking, he called me Ahi. I looked up and met his eyes. Then, after a moment, both of us blushed to the tips of our ears without meaning to. Since then, he has always called me that. Oh, and not only that, he stopped going out, stopped racing horses with others, and practiced swordplay here every single day. We chatted for a while in the courtyard, when a guard outside hurried in and said, "Your Highness, the Emperor summons you to the palace." Upon hearing this, Pei Changfeng's expression turned extremely grim. Ever since that day he had gone to beg for medicine. The relationship between the two brothers had become rather unspeakable. Pei Changfeng had never again uttered the words imperial brother. He stood up, grunted, and walked out with an impatient look on his face. Halfway there, he suddenly turned back and said to me with a smile, "I'm going to the palace." But I had been standing right beside him just now, and I already knew he was going to the palace. There was no need for him to specifically mention it. Still, I said, "I'll wait for you." As if he had been waiting for my words, he bared his teeth with a grin and walked away. So foolish. By the time Pei Changfeng returned, it was already the Shu hour, 7 to 9 p.m. He lay on the ground, looking quite pleased with himself. That Su Jinyu must have done something to displease the emperor. He nearly drew his sword and killed her. I was silent for a moment. "Then why did he summon you to the palace?" "Oh, he asked me to drink with him." He seemed really upset and distraught, kept saying something about how he was going to take someone back, but I couldn't be bothered with his drama, so I didn't ask. I didn't think much of it either. So this was his way of extending an olive branch. "You brothers have put the past behind you." Pei Changfeng tugged awkwardly at the blanket covering him, his voice low. "I suppose so. Tomorrow is my birthday, and he said he would hold a banquet in the palace to celebrate it for me, so I won't hold it against him. Besides, I've already found the second 9-section Ganoderma. Someone will send it back to the capital in a couple of days. I don't fancy his at all." I looked at him. "Things like this are extremely rare. You, gold, silver, land, or jade artifacts." "Pei Changfeng, what price did you pay exactly?" he interrupted me. "So what? I made a vow in front of you, and a man of honor keeps his word." That night, I finished embroidering the sachet. The moonlight was cold on the horizon, and peach blossoms had fallen all over the ground outside the courtyard. Early the next morning, Pei Changfeng and I entered the palace. He went to find Pei Lin. While I headed to the Sinning Palace, the Empress Dowager brought up Su Jinyu. "I've never seen the Emperor so furious. Consort Shu will likely find it hard to recover." However, ever since Consort Shu entered the palace, the Emperor has showered her with boundless favor and granted her every wish. Back then, unable to find that girl, he nearly became consumed by obsession. Only by seeing that face could he ease his suffering a little. Now that he has suddenly turned against her, I suspect he has already found that person. Perhaps the imperial edict and golden seal for the Empress's investiture are already prepared. When the Empress Dowager finished speaking, I did not respond. She is the Emperor's adoptive mother and watched him grow up, so it means little for her to say such things. But given my status, if I were to criticize the current Emperor at Sinning Palace, even 9 lives wouldn't be enough for me. Not long after, I heard Pei Changfeng's voice coming from outside the hall. Seeing this scene, the Empress Dowager smiled. "Changfeng, I am very fond of this wife of yours, and you, having married her, are you happy?" The hall was filled with swirling incense mist. Pei Changfeng smiled, his gaze open and candid. "Mother, You know the answer without asking. After coming out of the Sinning Palace, I gave the sachet to Pei Changfeng. He took it, hung it on his waist, and smiled brightly. At this time next year, I will embroider a sachet for you too. We went together to the banquet and then took our seats. I saw the Prince of Jing. I only recently learned that this aloof, taciturn Prince of Jing is actually not as well regarded as he seems. His birth mother was of low status and without the emperor's favor, so he has suffered far more than other princes since childhood. At that moment, sitting at the banquet and seeing me and Pei Changfeng, he slightly pressed his lips together and then looked away. I heard about this on the way here just a few days ago. He turned down a very good marriage proposal. I heard that someone secretly matched his birth chart, and it turns out his fate is one of lifelong solitude. Try this. Pei Changfeng, who was beside me, picked up a piece of pastry and handed it to me. My thoughts drifted back. All right. Before long, the emperor entered from outside with eyes straight ahead. He walked step by step to the high platform, then raised his wine cup and looked at Pei Changfeng with a smile. Changfeng, today is your birthday. I wish you and your wife 100 years of. As he spoke, his gaze fell upon me. I also froze on the spot, simply because just yesterday I had seen this powerful emperor on the street, and he had even saved me, saying to me, since we parted years ago, I have been utterly haunted by thoughts of you. At this moment, even I, slow as I am, should have realized the beloved he had been searching so hard for turned out to be me. But Pei Lin, after all, was the emperor. In just a moment, he averted his gaze and finished that sentence without changing his expression. May you have 100 years of marital bliss. A human life lasts no more than 100 years. After all, with that, he sat down and did not look this way again. I clenched my own palm and realized it was drenched in sweat. Just then, someone looked at me and Pei Changfeng and called out teasingly, Prince Su, it's been quite some time since you last joined us for merrymaking. Before today, I was curious about what you'd been up to. Now I see you've acquired a fine steed and a beautiful lady, and you're riding high on a wave of success. Although this banquet was held in the palace, most of the attendees were Pei Changfeng's peers, so when this person made such a remark, anyone would take it as nothing more than a harmless joke. Upon hearing this, Pei Changfeng chuckled. I'll definitely find time to catch up with you all another day. And then, crack, a soft, crisp sound interrupted everything. Pei Changfeng's words came to an abrupt halt. Everyone looked up toward the head of the table, only to see that the emperor's wine cup had shattered into several pieces just moments ago. Someone asked in a trembling voice, Your Majesty, is something amiss? Pei Changfeng frowned, silently watching Pei Lin without a word. After a long while, Pei Lin let out a soft chuckle. He lowered his gaze and casually wiped the wine stains from his hands with a handkerchief. It's nothing. I was just thinking about that horse. What a pity. Some people are riding high on success. Someone lost a fine steed, and also lost a beauty. I lowered my gaze, no longer looking at Pei Lin, only to suddenly recall that night when Pei Changfeng returned drunk from the palace and told me that Pei Lin wanted to take someone back. But then I thought again, he is the emperor, ruling over all under heaven, and I am already married. Even if he feels frustrated, surely it won't amount to much. The days that followed could be considered calm and uneventful. But perhaps it was just my imagination. Life in the mansion seemed to have become much more frugal. I even overheard servants whispering that this month's wages had been delayed by 5 days. Yet I had known since the time I first married into the family that my husband, though appearing to be a playboy, actually owned quite a few shops beneath his name and was, one might say, rolling in wealth. So then I understood, in order to find medicine for me, he had nearly spent all his fortune. I took the 9-section Ganoderma that Pei Changfeng had someone find. He asked me nervously, How is it? Do you feel any better? I smiled. Not that fast, he sighed. All right, I'll wait a little longer. Then, however, after just half an hour, he asked again, and now, I looked at his handsome face. Over these 2 months, we had grown closer little by little. He played chess with me, bought me Osmanthus cakes, and went to great lengths to find the 9-section Lingji mushroom. Even my own parents only knew how to use me. Apart from the Valley Master, he was the first person who had ever treated me so kindly. Such profound kindness would be difficult to repay in a lifetime, I asked. Have you not been going out these days because you're out of silver? Pei Changfeng chuckled. What are you thinking about? He did not say that after a full day of horse racing, he returned home with joy, only to see his newly wedded wife playing chess alone with herself in the empty courtyard. He had lived a boisterous life, always surrounded by splendor, never knowing the taste of sorrow. Yet in that moment, for the first time, his heart ached faintly. It was nothing more than the tenderness of not bearing to see her lonely that day. He took me to the Princess of Changjuan's mansion to admire the flowers. He was in high spirits. These orchids were just brought back from Bianzhou by my aunt, extremely precious. Take a look, do they resemble the ones you saw in the past? If you like them, I will ask my aunt for them. I took a glance. It's really beautiful as the ones in Yaowang Valley. I thought for a moment and was about to speak when a voice came from the secluded path. Do you like it? I, the emperor, can give you some too. Pei Changfeng's body stiffened. He looked at the newcomer incredulously. Imperial brother, what are you doing here butting in? Pei Lin ignored him. His gaze swept past the sachet at Pei Changfeng's waist. Then he looked at me with a calm expression. I bent down in a bow. If I liked it, your highness would give it to me. Pei Changfeng's expression gradually softened. Exactly so. Pei Lin furrowed his brow and stared at me for a long moment. Oh, is that so? Soon enough, it was noon, and the Grand Princess invited Pei Changfeng and me to stay for a meal. As for Pei Lin, he wasn't feeling well, so he rested in the side room. I breathed a sigh of relief. For some reason, I was a little afraid of him. I have made up my mind. When I return today, I will tell Pei Changfeng everything about my past with Pei Lin. Pei Lin is his elder brother, and I am his lawfully wedded wife. My conscience is clear. There is no reason to hide this from him. But just as we were halfway through the meal, a maid serving tea spilled it all over my dress. Seeing this, the eldest princess smiled and said, "There are clothes in the west wing. Go and change into a fresh set." Pei Changfeng had intended to accompany her, but the eldest princess stopped him. What trouble could she come to here with me? You and I, aunt and nephew, haven't spoken properly in a long time. Sit down and keep me company. I followed the palace maid through the winding corridor, past a long pavilion, and arrived at a courtyard. I stepped inside, found the clothes, and just as my hand reached for my belt, someone let out a soft sigh. "I have been waiting for you for a long time." I turned around and saw Pei Lin walking out from behind the screen. He said, "You rarely leave your residence, and whenever you do, you are always with Pei Lin. I have finally managed to find this opportunity." I pursed my lips and stepped back warily. Does the eldest princess know about this as well? Pei Lin shook his head. I only told her that I wanted to talk with you about Changfeng, and she agreed to help. Before marriage, Pei Changfeng was a complete novice when it came to matters of love. The eldest princess hoped that Pei Changfeng and I would be a loving couple, and she thought Pei Lin wanted to tell me how to win Pei Changfeng's heart, but she did not know that all of this was merely an excuse on Pei Lin's part. His true intentions were utterly unspeakable. I asked, "What is it that you want to do?" He was stunned for a moment, then raised an eyebrow. "You needn't be like this. I am no scoundrel. I only wish to apologize to you. You knelt for so long that day. It must have hurt. And as for the 9-segment Lingji, I did not know it was for you. I didn't speak," he continued, his voice strained. If only I had known you were a daughter of the Chu clan, I would never have bestowed you upon Changfeng. If only on your wedding night, I had let him lift your veil before the whole hall of guests. It avoids the situation where one wrong step leads to endless mistakes. And now regrets it so deeply it breaks the heart. These days, every night when he closes his eyes, all he sees is that bamboo slip with the words King Su written on it, along with the countless double happiness window decorations inside the King Su's mansion. I said, "But we are already married. I am your younger brother's wife." "So what?" he sneered. "Changfeng has always been unrestrained, wild and free, with a passion for fine horses. With just one horse, I got him to marry you. 2 days ago, I sent men across the land to search for more steeds. When the time comes, I'll offer him 100 in exchange. I imagine he'll agree." As his words fell, I stood there stunned. Would I have been married to Pei Changfeng for barely 2 months, and he has already done so much for me. If it came to this, asking him to give up his greatest love for my sake, would he be willing? However, just as this thought crossed my mind, the door was kicked open with a single blow from extremely close range. I saw Pei Changfeng glaring into the room with a fierce expression. His face was marked with sarcasm and a sneer. He stepped forward, grabbed Pei Lin by the collar, and threw a punch at him. I was alarmed and about to stop him, but Pei Lin smiled softly. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. "Third Lady Chu, leave us." Then he looked at Pei Changfeng. "My younger brother has grown up. He now has something he cares about and is willing to bear his claws for it. This truly pleases me." Pei Changfeng said coldly, "Stop pretending. You were the one who drove her out of the palace. You were the one who gave the Lingji to someone else. Now you say you regret it, don't you? Think it's a little too late? How can you even show your face? Let me tell you, not even 100 horses, not even 1,000 would make me trade, even if I never touch a horse again for the rest of my life. So be it." After saying this, he took a deep breath and said to me, "Go outside and wait for me." "All right." Both of their eyes fell on me at the same time. The former had a heavy gaze, while the latter wore a tender expression. I nodded. "I'll wait for you." A loud noise came from inside the room. After a while, Pei Changfeng finally came out. His forehead and the corners of his lips were swollen and red from the beating. He walked over and took my hand. "Let's return to the mansion." The person inside the room also spoke. "If you truly can fulfill my demand, then she will truly be your wife." Pei Changfeng's lips tightened into a straight line. "I know." Pei Changfeng and Pei Lin made a wager. The northern deserts had long been plagued by war. 3 days later, Pei Changfeng would lead the troops to battle. If he returned victorious, he would win the bet. Unexpectedly, the day after the news spread, Prince Jing also went to the palace and requested permission to accompany Pei Changfeng on the campaign. Pei Lin initially refused, but since he wouldn't agree, the Prince of Jing refused to leave. With no other option, he had no choice but to nod. On the night before their expedition, Pei Changfeng and I were still sharing the same room. This time, I shifted my body further inward. "The floor is cold. Come up and sleep." In the darkness, Pei Changfeng's body stiffened for a moment. After a long while, he said, "Let's talk about it when I come back." "All right." The night passed without further words. The next day, when I went to see off Pei Changfeng, I met the Prince of Jing. He had likely informed Pei Changfeng in advance, saying he wanted to bid me farewell. Pei Changfeng rode off to a short distance away. These words were known only to me and the Prince of Jing. He said, "Miss Chu, may I call you that?" I nodded. He said, "On the way back to the capital, I was injured, and you treated me. I helped you scare off the bandits, so I suppose we could be considered old friends. Back then, I heard that His Majesty was going to give you away to someone, and I feared you might end up with the wrong person, so I rashly asked for your hand. But what I thought at the time was, if you really married me, I would plant a field of medicinal herbs for you and buy you a few shops. I don't have much, but I could give you all of it. Even if you wouldn't be my wife, we could still spend our lives together as companions." I pressed my lips together, my heart filled with a jumble of emotions. He smiled again. "But now, seeing you happily married, I'm truly glad." I smiled back at him, thought for a moment, then took out the safety amulet I had prayed for yesterday. I prayed for 2. I gave the other one to Changfeng. I had planned to keep this one for myself, but now I'd like to give it to you. He paused in surprise, then reached out and took it. "Thanks." With that, he mounted his horse. His figure gradually faded into the distance. I was taken into the palace to keep the Empress Dowager company. This is what Pei Lin meant. It was also something Pei Changfeng had agreed to. He was willing to trust his elder brother one last time. He was afraid that if he left, the prince's mansion would be left unattended, and I might run into difficulties. My parents came to see me a few times. I haven't seen them as time went by. They stopped coming. I saw Consort Shu once more. She was dancing in the Imperial Garden, and when she saw me, she nearly fell on the spot. She walked over. "That day I saw your face, I knew I could never let you enter the palace. I never expected that the one in his heart would really be you." I said, "I should thank you, too. I never had any intention of entering the palace in the first place." Concubine Shu laughed and cried at the same time. The most glorious and the most miserable moments of my life have both been because of you. I no longer know whether I should hate you or not." Before she could finish her words, she was interrupted by Pei Lin. He walked over slowly, frowning as he instructed the palace maid beside him. "Why haven't you taken Consort Shu back to Lanting Palace? If there's no urgent matter, don't let her come out freely in the future." Only after Consort Shu was led away did he look at me and speak gently. "The palace has just received a new batch of silk fabrics and jewelry. I had them sent over for you to see if there's anything you like." I shook my head. "No need." His face darkened. After a long moment, he asked, "Do you think he can win?" I didn't speak, but I believe in Pei Changfeng. Pei Lin comes to find me every day. As time goes on, others inevitably notice something amiss. The Empress Dowager asks me in private, "The girl he's been searching for all along, it's you, isn't it?" I nodded. The Empress Dowager sighed. "The Emperor has been stubborn since childhood. But in this world, there is no such thing as a regret pill to take." The eldest princess entered the palace and had a quarrel with Pei Lin right in front of me. "So that was your real intention that day? Lin, have you gone mad? She is your younger brother's wife. You exiled Changfeng to the northern desert and brought Chu He into the palace. This is defying all moral law under heaven." Pei Lin pressed his lips together. "I don't care about that. I just want a certain person, and I've been longing for them for many years." "Is that wrong too?" The eldest princess spoke. "Of course it's wrong. You've worked diligently and done so many things for the people. But if you truly take someone else's wife by force, how will future generations record you in the annals of history? Who exactly are you being fair to by doing this?" After the eldest princess left, Pei Lin remained silent for a long time. He stood in the hall, closed his eyes, and only spoke after a long while. News came back from the northern desert today. Changfeng has gone missing. Upon hearing this, I nearly lost my balance. He smiled bitterly. "You also think I was wrong, don't you?" I was silent for a moment, then met his gaze. "Otherwise, Pei Lin, it's not like you can't do without me, is it?" Pei Lin instinctively retorted. "Nonsense, I have searched far and wide for you." I softly interrupted him. "If you were truly set on me, why bother bringing in the consort of virtue? Alternative, you call this indispensable to you. But you found her, yet you can't be devoted to her. It's just that I am more like me than she is. Do you love the person, or the face? You've wronged her too." At this point, I smiled. "You keep talking about regret, about how it's too late. But ask yourself, even if you had found me first, even if that day you had indulged Pei Changfeng in lifting the bridal veil, would you truly have cherished me for a lifetime? Can that truly make me irreplaceable? There's no one more like me than myself. But someday, if someone were to offer mountains of gold, entire cities, or something you desire even more deep in your heart in exchange for me, would you dare to say that you would definitely refuse?" Seeing his lips part as if to speak, I looked up at him. "Don't say you absolutely will not." That day, when you wanted to trade 100 fine horses for me with Changfeng, it was simply because you believed everything could be replaced, including me. Isn't that so? You regret it. You wish it had been different. You can't figure it out. But even if we met 1,000 times over, no matter who came first, I would still choose him. Because in his heart, I am different. You'd better pray nothing has happened to him." With that, I turned and left, ignoring Pei Lin's pale face behind me. If not for the long wind, we would never have been connected. I haven't seen Pei Lin again for several days after that. There was no news of Pei Changfeng. Every moment, I felt like sitting on pins and needles. Fortunately, on the 7th day, the eldest princess came to the palace and told me that Pei Changfeng had returned. The Prince of Jing had braved danger to rescue him personally. Besides, they routed the enemy troops. They should be able to return to the capital within a few days. I breathed a sigh of relief. The day before Pei Changfeng returned, I saw Pei Lin again. He was holding a chessboard, with a gloomy expression. "Would you care to play another game with me?" The wind and rain battered the outside of the hall as we sat at opposite ends. By daybreak, the outcome was decided. He had won. He placed his hand on the go board. 2 years ago, I played against 100 opponents by the Chushure River. You were the only one who won. It just so happened that by the time I came to my senses and wanted to speak with you, You had already left, I whispered softly. You have one now as well. He looked up, his voice low and rough. But I feel no joy. Have a good sleep, and you will see him. Tomorrow, early the next morning, I left the palace on the main street. The soldiers were just returning to the city. I watched from afar. The man at the very front had grown thinner and tanner, and at his waist hung a sachet I had made for him with my own hands. My young man had finally become someone who could stand on his own. Spotting me, he raised an eyebrow and spurred his horse toward me. He reached out his hand to me under the sun. His expression carried a hint of caution mixed with a touch of pride. Let's go home. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. When I was dying, I smiled and said to the emperor, in the next life, I still want to be your empress and bear a child of our own. Alright, I saw him as if he was speaking, but I couldn't hear clearly. Did he agree to my request? When I opened my eyes again, I had actually returned to the age of blooming youth. I waited to be betrothed to him again, but what came instead was the news that he would marry Jiang Yunyang, the daughter of the minister. So he had also been reborn, and it turned out he hadn't agreed after all. Later, on my wedding night with the heir of the manor, he stood outside the door all night. In my previous life, I became the crown princess. After the power struggles, the crown prince successfully ascended the throne, and I was named empress within the vast imperial palace. We still lived like an ordinary, loving couple. He painted my eyebrows and created art with me, flew paper kites together, and we disguised ourselves to stroll the markets during the Lantern Festival, making wishes. Until my death from illness, I had always been his most beloved queen. So when I found myself reborn back to the time before I was married, I thought this life was to make up for the regret of my previous life, where I fell ill due to scheming and died young. In this life, I will guard against schemes, take good care of my health, bear children, and grow old with him in love. When I heard that the crown prince had gone south to eliminate bandits and was also repairing embankments to control the floods, I suddenly realized that he had also been reborn. These were all events that would have occurred in the later years of our previous lives, yet he had already achieved these merits so early. Does that mean our marriage will also be brought forward? I waited with a heart full of joy, but what came was the crown prince requesting the emperor to grant him a marriage, to take Jiang Yunyang, the daughter of the Minister of Revenue, as his crown princess. Only then did I realize that during my final moments, he had not actually agreed to my words about being together again in the next life. At the banquet in Princess Yuanhua's estate, I saw Li Yuanzhao just like in the previous life. He was dressed in fine robes and a jade belt, exuding an air of noble elegance. The crowd rose to pay their respects. He waved a dismissive hand, his gaze seemingly falling upon me, yet it swept past indifferently, without a single ripple of emotion, as if in this life, we were nothing but strangers. They were indeed strangers. A lovely young woman approached him. His expression softened instantly as he reached out to adjust the slightly askew hibiscus hairpin in her playful hairstyle. What a perfect pair they made. Qingli, look at you and that Miss Jiang, you really do bear some resemblance, remarked a noble lady beside her. There is some likeness, but what different fates you have. She is now the future crown princess, truly enviable, added the daughter of another minister. I heard that the crown prince and Miss Jiang met during the Lantern Festival. At the time, Miss Jiang didn't know he was the crown prince, and it wasn't until the marriage was decreed that the truth came out. What a delightful story. So that's how it was. So in the previous life, Li Yuanzhao happened to be away from the capital on business, and Jiang Yunyang encountered the newly appointed top scholar parading through the streets on horseback. The talented scholar and the beautiful lady soon became engaged and married. By the time Li Yuanzhao returned to the capital, he learned that the lady had already married someone else. Then he met me, who bore some resemblance to Jiang Yunyang. I also had a decent status as the legitimate daughter of the left censor-in-chief, so he married me. Later, I heard that Miss Jiang, while traveling in a carriage, encountered the sworn enemy of the top scholar's family and met her untimely demise. I remember there was one day when he was completely drunk, mumbling, if I had married you earlier, just a little earlier, would everything have been different? I think I foolishly said at the time, "It's not too late now." He touched my face in a daze and said, Why isn't it her? Oh, Qingli, why are you crying?" The daughter of the Minister of Personnel asked in surprise. Something got in my eye. I lowered my head and wiped it away. So in this life, he married her earlier. I stepped away from the banquet, seeking a moment of quiet by the waterside pavilion, but unexpectedly ran into Li Yuanzhao and Jiang Yunyang. It was too late to avoid them. "Brother Crown Prince, I've often heard that this Miss Shen bears some resemblance to me. Do you think we look alike?" Jiang Yunyang asked in her clear, crisp voice. I froze. His clear, jade-like voice came through. "Yang is as delicate as a lotus flower, unique and incomparable to anyone else, unlike Brother Crown Prince." Jiang Yunyang blushed with embarrassment. I bent my knees slightly, then turned and left. I hid in the secluded spot of the rockery and took a hibiscus hairpin from my sleeve. I thought of the previous life, when he gave me many hibiscus-patterned clothes and hibiscus-themed jewelry. I thought he was giving me the things he himself liked. The truth was truly cruel. I came here today truly unwilling, wanting to ask him one question, but now it seems there is no need to ask anymore. I raised my hand and threw the hibiscus hairpin in my hand into the pond. Just then, someone unexpectedly walked out from over there. The hairpin was thrown directly at the person. He wore a jade belt hook adorned with a golden-laid jade pendant, and his appearance was exceptionally handsome, the very image of a dandy. He caught it with one hand, glanced at the hairpin in his palm, then raised an eyebrow to look at my tear-streaked face. "I'm sorry." I quickly stood up and went over, reaching out to take the hairpin from his hand. I turned my head and finally threw it into the pond. Then I turned and walked away, but unexpectedly, as I hurried out from behind the rockery, I ran straight into someone. I was knocked back a step. The person instinctively reached out to grab me, but upon seeing me clearly, they let go and pulled their hand away as if they didn't want to touch something dirty. I bumped into the rockery to steady myself, only to realize that the person before me was none other than Li Yuanzhao. I quickly curtsied. "Your Highness, please forgive me. I wasn't paying attention to the path." He waved his hand dismissively. I lowered my gaze and walked past him. The girl beside me glanced at me and walked past. "Brother Crown Prince, is she deliberately throwing herself at you?" Jiang Yunyan's voice carried displeasure toward me. "No matter what she does, she still has to see if she has the capability," Li Yuanzhao said coldly. In my ears, I faintly hear those calls of a Li. "My dear Li, everything can truly be faked. The tenderness of the past life was false. The coldness of this life is him." I never expected Jiang Yunyang to cause trouble for me because of this. I was feeding the fish by the inn's pond and had sent my maid, Chiotao, to buy more fish feed. Unexpectedly, Jiang Yunyang arrived in a fury with her maids and servants in tow, and immediately swung a slap at me. I dodged in a panic. "Miss Jiang, what is the meaning of this?" Having missed her slap, she gritted her teeth in displeasure. "How shameless of you. How dare you try to seduce the Crown Prince just because you bear some resemblance to me? Miss Jiang, please do not speak nonsense. Last time, I merely accidentally bumped into the Crown Prince. There has been no other interaction between us," I said sternly. "Then why did the Crown Prince glance at you twice? And why did you just happen to bump into him? Don't you dare deny it, you shameless wretch." Jiang Yunyang stepped forward to grab me again. Frowning, I quickly pushed her away. She grabbed my sleeve, then glanced somewhere, and as if pushed by my hand, she fell into the river. I froze. This was bad. I was being set up. I quickly leaped into the river as well. Miss Autumn Peach hurried over from afar. Gurgle, gurgle, help. Jiang Yunyang and I were calling for help in the river. Yanga, Li Yuanzhao rushed over, jumped into the river, and swam toward Jiang Yunyang. Soon, he brought her ashore. I was still flailing and crawling around in the water. Li Yuanzhao ordered the guards to jump into the river and rescue me, but someone else was faster. I was soon brought ashore as well. Over there, Jiang Yunyang had already been covered with dry clothes by the Crown Prince to shield her drenched body. Meanwhile, the man who had helped me ashore also instructed his servant to quickly fetch clothes from the inn. He was the same person I had thrown the hairpin at that day. "Crown Prince brother, it was her. She pushed me into the water." Jiang Yunyang tearfully accused. Li Yuanzhao's sharp eyes shot over. Now that he is the crown prince and possesses the memories of a past emperor, his gaze is overwhelmingly intimidating. Even Qiutao, who helped me up, shivered beside me. I did not. Miss Jiang, you accidentally fell into the water, and I clearly jumped in to save you. Why would I push you into the river and then jump in myself? I immediately refuted, my words firm and resolute. The man who had rescued me glanced at me again, a faint smile playing on his lips. Jiang Yunyang was taken aback, momentarily at a loss for words. It was you who pushed me into the water. Otherwise, why would I have fallen in for no reason? Brother Crown Prince, she's full of tricks. She deliberately ran into you again and again at Princess Yuanhua's banquet, and now she's pulling this stunt. Your Highness, please investigate clearly. As the daughter of the left censor-in-chief, I will not accept any baseless slander from anyone, I declared coldly and firmly. Li Yuanzhao swept a cold glance over me. This matter will be investigated later, however. As the daughter of the left censor-in-chief, you should also be mindful of your words and actions. Do not recklessly charge forward again. I pressed my lips together. He then turned his gentle gaze to the person in his arms. Younger, let me take you back to change your clothes first, so you don't catch a cold. Jiang Yunyang responded weakly. Li Yuanzhao lifted Jiang Yunyang into his arms and glanced at the man who had saved me from the water. Lord Xiao, it seems you have the leisure to rescue people as well. Lord Xiao rubbed his nose. How could I stand by and watch when a beautiful lady falls into the water? Li Yuanzhao gave a cold laugh, then carried Jiang Yunyang away with his guards following closely behind. Suddenly, I recalled my previous life. When he went south and never returned, I was summoned to the palace by the imperial consort, who tried to force me to hand over a seal he had entrusted to me. The imperial consort had her people push me into an ice cellar. I held on stubbornly, refusing to yield, until I was on the brink of death. When I woke up, I was in the crown prince's residence. In the bedchamber, with Li Yuanzhao by my side, he gently caressed my face and said, "Sorry, I'm back late." I weakly shook my head and replied, "The seal is still here, they can't take it." He held me tightly in his arms and said, "Ali, I will clear everything as soon as possible and protect you from now on." It was also that time when I was left with a chronic illness, unable to conceive again in my previous life. The man who promised to protect me has now rushed to another woman, protecting only her, I should say. The protection I received in my previous life was because of her too. It was all hers from the start. A large hand waved in front of my face. "Did you fall into the water and lose your mind?" I snapped back to reality and looked at the person in front of me, who had the appearance of a frivolous young master. "Thank you, Prince Xiao, for saving me," I said sincerely. He glanced at me and cleared his throat lightly. "Go change your clothes quickly." Then he turned and left. At the Shun residence, my father and mother were discussing the matter of arranging a marriage for me. I went out with Qiu Dao at the entrance of a music hall. I saw the young master Xiao Yunjing, who was still lingering in the afterglow of the music, strolling out leisurely. "Young master," I stepped forward and called out. Xiao Yunjing looked at me with confusion, then suddenly realized, "Miss Shen, I really wanted to properly thank you for what happened last time," I said. He raised an eyebrow. "You deliberately waited here to thank me. Could it be that you've taken a fancy to me?" I looked at him. Does young Master Xiao have someone in his heart? He froze for a moment, took 2 steps back, and hugged himself. "Miss Shen, what are you trying to do? If you don't have someone you love, would you be willing to marry me?" I explained my true intentions. Xiao Yunjing looked at me as if I had said something outrageous. "Miss Shen, how could you be so bold as to propose to a man like me?" The autumn peach beside me also looked at me in astonishment. "Lord Xiao, would you be willing to marry me?" I asked again with sincerity. Xiao Yunqing waved his hand dismissively. "I haven't had my fill of fun yet." My shoulders slumped. "Then I apologize for the disturbance." I turned and walked away. Wait, I'm willing." Xiao Yunqing hurriedly grabbed me in a panic. I turned around and looked at him in pleasant surprise. Xiao Yunjing stiffened and paused for a moment, the tips of his ears seeming to flush with a faint red. "But you should think it through. I'm famously known as a good-for-nothing playboy." I raised an eyebrow playfully. mimicking him. Oh, really? He paused, as if seen through, and left. With nowhere to hide, his voice stumbling. You can find out with just a casual inquiry. I shrugged. He stared at me intently. Are you really willing to marry me? I nodded, with utmost seriousness. His eyes seemed to shimmer with an unusual hue. The next day, the old lady of the Duke of Zhengguo's residence personally came to propose marriage. Such importance made father and mother eagerly and warmly receive her, for this was none other than the most esteemed Lady Xiao in the capital. But the reputation of this young Master Xiao truly was that of a reckless and unruly scoundrel. So father and mother hesitantly said they would ask for their daughter's opinion. I walked out directly and said, "Father, mother, I am willing." Father and mother were startled. Old Madame Xiao happily held my hand and said, "Good child." She placed the family heirloom jade bracelet on my wrist after the Xiao family had left. My father looked at me and asked, "Leah, are you truly willing to marry the Xiao heir?" I nodded earnestly. "Leah, are you still making a rash decision because of the crown prince?" my mother said with concern. Hearing my mother's words, I gave a bitter smile. I remember when I was first reborn, I told my mother that I would marry the crown prince. My mother laughed and said that the crown prince wasn't someone you could just marry so easily. I said mysteriously, "You'll find out in the future." Then, I heard about the engagement between the crown prince and Jiang Yunyang. At that time, I was like a clown. Fortunately, my parents and Chotao wouldn't laugh at me. During those days, I was in a terrible mood, and my father and mother were deeply worried. Seeing that I was fine, they finally felt relieved. I shook my head at that moment. The crown prince's affairs no longer concern me. My mother felt relieved but then grew worried again. Although the Duke of Zhengguo's estate is a first-class family, I'm afraid this young Master Xiao may not treat you well. Don't worry, father and mother, young Master Xiao is actually a very good person. I had certainly seen Xiao Yunjing in my previous life. His frivolous demeanor was actually meant to put the current emperor at ease. The Duke of Zhengguo's mansion held too much prestige, and with the Duke himself leading 100,000 Xiao family troops guarding the border, the Xiao heir in the capital had to appear idle and unambitious. After that day's incident of falling into the water, Jiang Yunyang and I had developed a grudge against each other, and she will be the future crown princess, so I'm sure she has plenty of tricks waiting for me. So I need to find myself a marriage as soon as possible. A marriage that Li Yuanzhao would not allow Jiang Yunyang to interfere with, because the future Xiao Yuncheng will be Li Yuanzhao's greatest support in ascending the throne. Now with memories of his past life, Li Yuanzhao is even more determined to stabilize and protect the current Xiao Yunjing. The news of my engagement to Xiao Yunjing spread like wildfire. The prodigal young Master Xiao no longer indulged in cockfighting and gambling. Instead, he took his fiancée to savor all kinds of delicacies, a skill at which the prodigal young master excelled. It wasn't until I returned to the mansion that I learned the crown prince had paid a visit. I hadn't even made it to my own courtyard when I encountered him in the main yard. I casually bowed slightly and prepared to leave. "Miss Shen is going to marry the Xiao heir?" he asked in a calm voice. Since he was the crown prince, I had no choice but to stop and answer, "Yes." Li Yuanzhao scoffed. "What does Miss Shen see in the young Master Xiao, his cockfighting and dog racing, or his frequent visits to the pleasure quarters?" I looked at him with puzzled eyes. Young Master Xiao and I are well matched in social status and temperament. Last time he saved me, even His Highness the Crown Prince knows about it. I believe in his character. I don't understand why Your Highness would concern himself with my marriage to young Master Xiao. Li Yuanzhao looked at me with deep, intense eyes. "Unless you know what Xiao Yunjing will become in the future." I continued to gaze at him with an innocent and bewildered expression. He paused for a moment. "If the crown prince has no further matters, I shall take my leave now." I then left with Chotao. May my husband, Yuan Zhao, live in eternal joy and good health, enjoying this prosperous era until his hair turns white. Li Yuanzhao suddenly recited a line from behind. I was taken aback. It was a wish I had written on a long-burning lantern during the Lantern Festival in my previous life. He was testing whether I had also been reborn. I pretended to know nothing and calmly walked away. It was as if she didn't even hear his words, spoken with a tone of relief. "Well then, At least you've found a good place to settle. The Shaanxi festival outing was a popular tradition among the noble circles of Shangjing in the outskirts. Families set up tents, while outside, people enjoyed boating on the lake, admiring flowers, competing in poetry, practicing archery, or heading out for hunting. Xiao Yunjing took me on horseback to a secluded spot in the mountain forest. He took something out from his embrace. It was an apricot blossom hairpin. Last time you lost a hibiscus hairpin, so I thought of finding you a new one. I think the apricot blossom hairpin suits you better. He carefully handed it over. Afraid that I might refuse, I stood frozen as I took the apricot blossom hairpin from his hand in a daze. I remembered the words spoken to me in my previous life by the newly appointed Duke, who remained undefeated and never married. Does Her Majesty the Empress prefer hibiscus? I had thought apricot blossoms were her favorite. In my past life, I had been just as stunned upon hearing those words. I have always preferred apricot blossoms. But Li Yuanzhao loved hibiscus and often gave me hibiscus accessories. Because I loved what he loved, I grew accustomed to using hibiscus. But why did Xiao Yunjing know in my previous life that I liked apricot blossoms? And in this life, he still so clearly gave me an apricot blossom hairpin. It was as if he had known me all along. What's wrong? Don't you like it? He asked nervously. I came back to my senses, holding the apricot blossom hairpin. I really like it, thank you. He breathed a sigh of relief. I knew my taste was top-notch. I smiled and handed it back to him. Put it on for me. His eyes brightened as he took the hairpin and gently placed it in my hair. I thought it was some young lovers having a secret rendezvous here, but it turns out to be young Master Xiao and Miss Shen. Over there, Li Yuanzhao held Jiang Yunyang as they rode slowly on the same horse, and Jiang Yunyang spoke with a mocking tone, "Your Highness, the Crown Prince." The two of them bowed in greeting. Li Yuanzhao held Jiang Yunyang as they dismounted from the horse. "Brother Crown Prince, look at the hairpin on Miss Shen's head. It must have been a gift from the young master of the Xiao family. Do you think Miss Shen's apricot blossom hairpin is more beautiful, or the hibiscus hairpin you gave me?" Jiang Yunyang leaned against Li Yuanzhao, speaking in a soft, delicate tone. Li Yuanzhao lifted his gaze to glance at the hairpin in my hair, then curled his lips and gently tapped her cute nose. "Could it be that you think the one I gave you is inferior to someone else's?" "Of course not. The one Crown Prince sent is the most beautiful," Jiang Yunyang quickly said with a charming tone. Xiao Yunqing smiled faintly. "Indeed, if Miss Jiang thinks the Crown Prince's is best, Qingli would also think mine is the finest." Li Yuanzhao suddenly glanced at me nonchalantly. "Is that so, Miss Shen?" My gaze remained calm. "Naturally. I have always loved apricot blossoms, and Yunqing's gift is perfect." Li Yuanzhao slightly pursed his thin lips. "Apricot blossoms can hardly compare to the charm of hibiscus." Before Jiang Yunyang could finish her words, suddenly, an arrow cut through the air. Xiao Yunjing pulled me aside with a swift turn to dodge. Li Yuanzhao also hurriedly moved Jiang Yunyang beside him out of the way. Black-clad, masked assailants closed in from all directions. "Assassins!" The Crown Prince's hidden guard shouted and charged out. Soon, the assassins and the hidden guards were locked in combat. Li Yuanzhao and Jiang Yunyang were protected by the guards. Xiao Yunjing shielded me closely, fending off countless attacks, but the assassins came prepared, numerous in number, all targeting Li Yuanzhao, as if determined to take his life. Jiang Yunyang, held in Li Yuanzhao's embrace, was so frightened that her body went limp. The guards protecting Li Yuanzhao were quickly overwhelmed, facing the attacks. Li Yuanzhao found it difficult to both defend himself and hold on to Jiang Yunyang. I took the sword from the fallen guard and aimed it at the enemy. Xiao Yunjing held me close. "I will protect you." I glanced at him. "We'll do it together." I had experienced a few similar situations with Li Yuanzhao in my past life. While Xiao Yuncheng was facing the assassin attacking from the side, I saw the sword swinging toward Jiang Yunyang. I hurriedly stabbed from behind the assassin. The other assassins noticed me and swung their blades toward me. Li Yuanzhao raised his sword and deflected the blade coming at me. We exchanged a glance and moved in perfect sync. He wrapped an arm around me, lifting me into the air as he kicked toward the assassin. After he set me down, I smoothly slipped out of his embrace and crouched to pull the trembling Jiang Yunyang, who was huddled nearby, to safety over there. Xiao Yunjing had just forced the assassin back when he caught sight of the natural, seamless coordination between Li Yuanzhao and me. He froze for a moment, and when he saw a sword swinging toward me, he rushed over to shield me. We finally endured until the reinforcements arrived, with a dowry stretching 10 miles. I married into the Duke of Zhengguo's residence on our wedding night. He lifted the red bridal veil. He stared at me, mesmerized. Beneath the wedding veil, I looked back at him just when I thought he might do something. He sat down beside me and spoke softly. Qingli, perhaps I am not the one in your heart. If you are unwilling, I will not touch you. In the future, if you wish to leave, I will give you a letter of divorce. I was taken aback, realizing that he had been acting strangely ever since. The day we encountered the assassins, I reached out and took his hand. I have no one else in my heart. I am willing to marry you and wish to spend my life with you. He stared blankly at his hand, which was now covered by mine, then lifted his gaze to meet mine, his eyes growing increasingly bright. Perhaps it is you, who does not wish to walk this path with me, I said with a sense of loss, letting go of his hand. Qingli, he hurriedly grabbed my hand, looking at me anxiously. I do. I looked at him with a joyful smile. He looked dazed for a moment, then wrapped his arms around me and pressed me down beneath him. Then it settled. From now on, no matter who it is, I won't back down. I raised an eyebrow as if afraid I might change my mind. He anxiously leaned in and kissed me. With a kiss that stirred deep emotions, he whispered softly, "My dear, I may have a bad reputation outside, but I have never been with anyone else. Please don't think I'm tainted." I smiled and wrapped my arms around his back. He kissed me passionately. The red bed curtains fell, and within the bridal chamber, the room was filled with tender intimacy. Outside the bridal chamber, a man in fine robes and a jade belt stood quietly, gazing at the swaying, enchanting red candles inside the room. Then, he resolutely walked away. The next day, I woke up exhausted. Xiao Yunjing held me close and kissed me, saying, "You've worked hard, my dear." I gave him a reproachful look. It's all because he doesn't know restraint. Xiao Yunqing, filled with joy, held me close, personally helping me dress and wash. Then he sat me down in front of the bronze mirror. I look into the bronze mirror, seeing the reflection of my face and Xiao Yunqing's in a daze. I recall that in my past life, Li Yuanzhao and I also had many such moments. He loved to trace my eyebrows and would rest his head on my shoulder, playfully causing mischief while I did my makeup. I could only laugh and tell him it tickled, urging him to move away if there was nothing else to do. He would get carried away with his antics, picking me up and carrying me back to the bed in moments of passion. He would say, "Ali, I will search far and wide for renowned physicians and miraculous medicines. Will you stay by my side for a lifetime?" What I once mistook for deep affection was only because, in that lifetime, Jiang Yunyang had passed away early, and he needed me, a substitute, to remain by his side. "What are you thinking about?" A sudden voice snapped me out of my daze. I looked up at him with a smile. "I was thinking how happy I am that you're my husband. In this life, I am no longer the empress." Xiao Yunjing, pleased by my words, gave me a happy kiss. Xiao Yunjing was outside when a shadow guard approached him and reported in a low voice, "Last night, the crown prince stood outside the door for a long time before leaving." Xiao Yunjing paused, a thoughtful look in his eyes, and waved his hand dismissively. When he saw me stepping out the door, he regained his composure, smiled, and came forward to embrace me. "Be careful, my lady. I was too rough last night, so I'll be supporting you all day today." Xiao Yunjing, stop with your nonsense. At the autumn hunting grounds, the young masters from various noble families were freely moving about in the woods. The noble ladies and their families sat in small groups on the lawn. "Ali." Xiao Yunjing galloped his horse toward me. Hearing the name, Li Yuanzhao over there froze for a moment before turning to look. Xiao Yunjing hastily dismounted, covered in sweat, holding a branch of apricot blossoms in his hands. "Ali, I saw the apricot blossoms on the hill were exceptionally beautiful, so I picked the finest ones. Do you think they look good?" He presented them to me as if offering a treasure. I frowned. "Isn't that apricot tree on the hill located by the steep cliff? Ahem. Don't you believe in your husband's skills?" He cozied up a bit closer. acting cute. Do you like it or not? I had no choice but to take it. I like it. Seeing him drenched in sweat, I helplessly reached out to wipe it off for him. He grinned foolishly and lowered his head, letting me wipe the sweat from his face. The noble ladies and young masters around us cast their gazes over. Who would have thought that after marrying, young Master Xiao would become so henpecked? Exactly, he doesn't even hang out with us anymore. All he talks about is my wife this, my wife that, and never has time. The young masters who used to fool around with him clicked their tongues in disapproval. Afterwards, Xiao Yunjing continued roasting the wild game. He sat beside me, tearing off the most tender and flavorful parts to feed me. I ate with great relish, smiling as I reached out to wipe his mouth again. Brother Crown Prince, what are you looking at? Jiang Yunyang said with a hint of grievance. Li Yuanzhao calmly withdrew his gaze as usual. Apart from the Crown Prince's grand wedding and the return of the Duke of Zhengguo due to injury, the capital remained tranquil and uneventful. However, amidst this apparent calm, the war at the frontier erupted. With the Duke of Zhengguo no longer guarding the border, the Xiongnu army had already breached the city walls and launched a full-scale invasion. The emperor immediately ordered several military generals to proceed. After successive defeats, the only option was to request the Duke of Zhen to step in and suppress the situation. However, the Duke of Zhen's current physical condition no longer permitted it. That night, Xiao Yunjing wore a troubled expression when resting. I leaned into his embrace. Go, Xiao Yuncheng, I'll await your triumphant return. Xiao Yuncheng held me tightly, kissing me fervently. I will return as soon as possible. Come back safely. I'll be waiting for you, I said softly. Xiao Yuncheng kissed me with tears of reluctance. The Crown Prince strongly recommended that Xiao Yunjing lead the expedition in his father's stead. After Xiao Yunjing defeated the Imperial Guard commander in the arena, the capital was thrown into an uproar. Soon after, Xiao Yunjing set out with the Xiao family army. Xiao Yunjing repelled the invading foreign enemies all the way, confronting them at the border. Time flew by, and in the final battle, he rode his horse straight to the enemy's imperial palace, forcing them to sign a surrender agreement promising not to invade for the next 30 years. On the day of his return, the entire city erupted in cheers. I stood on the city wall with my daughter Yang Yang, watching the man at the forefront, who carried an aura of awe-inspiring authority. Yet when he looked up and saw us, mother and daughter, he broke into the same familiar smile from 4 years ago. He rushed up the city wall, pulling me into a tight, urgent embrace. Father, Yang Yang called out. Tilting her head up, Yang Yang knew her father was a great general who defended the nation, a true hero. He bent down, picked Yang Yang up, held her in one arm, and kissed her on the cheek. Ali, I'm back, I smiled and nodded, raising my hand to caress his weathered face. On the other side, Li Yuanzhao stood there. Congratulations on your triumphant return. General Xiao Yunjing, who had returned just in time, had not only come back victorious, but the emperor was gravely ill, and the princes were already stirring with ambition. And now, Xiao Yunjing has returned with his troops. After a series of conspiracies and power struggles among various factions, Xiao Yunjing led his army to suppress the unrest. The emperor passed away, and the crown prince ascended the throne smoothly. Noble consorts were conferred, but the position of empress remained vacant. Xiao Yunjing surrendered his military tally. He specifically requested that the Xiao family army be renamed the Protective Feather Army. During the days when Xiao Yunjing was away at war, some events actually took place. Li Yuanzhao came to see me. He said that if I wished, I would still be his crown princess, his empress. I stared at him in disbelief and vomited right in front of him. I was pregnant. Something has happened to Jiang Yunyang. She caused the death of a pregnant concubine and was stripped of her position as crown princess. If I were to say Jiang Yunyang and I share 3 or 4 parts of resemblance, then that pregnant concubine bore 6 or 7 parts of resemblance to me. How laughable. The last time Li Yuanzhao and I met alone was to clarify everything. He would be the emperor in the future, and I didn't want any hidden troubles later on. I knelt before him, kneeling to the future emperor. In my past life, I, Shen Qingli, belonged only to you, Li Yuanzhao. We were husband and wife for a lifetime, and we shared joy and happiness that cannot be changed. But in this new life, you have given up our bond, and I have found my own happiness. Fate was rewritten from the very beginning. Perhaps in the next life, the outcome will be different once again. So in this life, please let me go. In this life, I wish to grow old together with my husband. Xiao Yunjing, extra. Xiao Yunjing's previous life. From a young age, Xiao Yunjing had to pretend to be mischievous and was often punished by kneeling in the ancestral hall. Once, when he was so hungry his stomach rumbled, a little girl suddenly slipped in through the door. "Brother, what's wrong with you? Brother, are you bored? I'll keep you company. Brother, are you hungry? Here, have some almonds." The last almond, she reluctantly gave it to him, but as she watched him about to put it in his mouth, her round, rolling eyes stared longingly. He had no choice but to place the almond in her hand. Her eyes lit up, and she took a bite of the almond, then handed him the half covered in her saliva, with an innocent and naive expression. Tsk. He ate it. He heard that she was the Shun family girl who came to worship the Buddha with her grandfather. When he saw her again later, she had already grown into a young woman, no longer eating almonds, but instead breaking off apricot blossoms. He would often see her passing by from the upper floors of elegant restaurants and refined establishments. Occasionally, she would visit a jewelry shop, sometimes a pastry shop, and at other times an art gallery. While seemingly carefree, drinking and enjoying himself, his eyes would always drift toward that figure. She was actually betrothed to the Crown Prince. Tsk. Off to the battlefield years later, he encountered her on the palace path. He felt a hint of confusion. Does Her Majesty the Empress like hibiscus? I thought her favorite flower was the apricot blossom. She was also taken aback. He couldn't help but wonder, were the Emperor and she truly as deeply in love as the rumors outside suggested? But no matter what, the Emperor had failed to protect her. Her body was broken. If it were him, could he have protected her? A life with no memories of a past one. A hibiscus hairpin was tossed onto the artificial rockery. Xiao Yunqing casually caught a glance and saw her face streaked with tears. A flicker of concern crossed his mind, but he raised an eyebrow in a roguish manner. Who had upset her like this at the banquet? It seemed she had glanced at the Crown Prince a couple of times. Tsk. Have you fallen for the Crown Prince? Feeling upset seeing someone by the Crown Prince's side, seeing her leap into the pond, he momentarily forgot to conceal his martial skills and rushed over. She's really amusing. Her body is so soft. Quickly cover her with clothes. But then she became lost in thought while staring at the Crown Prince. Do you like him that much? If the Crown Prince has no one in his heart, would you be willing to marry me? What? He was in a daze, thinking he had misheard. Was she serious? He swallowed hard. She was about to give up in despair. No, he is willing. The one in his heart is her. He just didn't expect the pie to fall right into his lap that day. They encountered assassins. The rapport between her and the Crown Prince didn't seem to have formed overnight. Why? His shadow guards had investigated. She and the Crown Prince had never met before, but he wanted to possess her so badly. Even if marriage was just a temporary measure for her, at least they had gone through the ceremony. He was also afraid she would resent him, so he allowed her the freedom to leave. His heart was in turmoil, terrified that she might truly leave him for good. Her hand covered his, which was actually trembling. I have no one else in my heart. I am willing to marry you and wish to spend my life with you. Her heart was beating fiercely. He was hers. No one is allowed to take it away. Crown Prince, get lost. So beautiful everything beneath me. So beautiful everything, so satisfied, so happy. Damn it, that perverted Crown Prince, coming to stand like a tree stump, spying on him and his wife's intimate moments. Ignore him. After all, the wife is his. Xiao Yunqing's. He once asked her who would be suitable to rule the kingdom. She stated calmly that the Crown Prince would be a wise ruler. He stared at her in a daze, not at all feeling that his wife still held any affection for the Crown Prince. Then let Li Yuanzhao secure his throne and endure his boundless solitude. During the lunch break, Xiao Yunjing held the young woman close as they leaned against the couch, taking a fan and gently fanning her. Ali, I had a dream last night. What dream? She responded lazily and drowsily. I dreamed that you married the Crown Prince, but your health was very poor. I'm so sad. He nuzzled against her neck, his eyes moist as he buried his face in her shoulder. then quickly wiped it away. She raised her hand to caress his face. "And what about you? I'll grow old alone." He pressed his face into her hand. "It's just a dream. In this life, we are both doing well," she said softly. "Yeah." He kissed her neck and whispered, "So, was that a past life? Mom, Dad, Yang and Juju want to fly kites." Extra, Li Yuanzhao's past life on the Lantern Festival Day. A lively and spirited young girl bumped into Li Yuanzhao's arms. He had concealed his identity, watching her charming face with its playful and willful expression. Unfortunately, by the time he returned to the capital from his official duties, she had already married another. Although he was the crown prince, the undercurrents among the princes were turbulent, and his foundation was still weak. He could not afford to be trapped by love at the banquet. The face of the censor's daughter left him dazed. Shen Qingli became his crown princess. Tragic news arrived. The girl in his heart had died just like that. Drunk and losing his composure, he uttered the words, "Why wasn't it her?" It's a pity that Shen Qingli is a bit foolish and hasn't noticed. He still cannot be troubled by emotions, burying them deep in his heart forever. He just increasingly wants Shen Qingli to wear the hibiscus hairpin, and he would be extremely gentle with her. "She doesn't know that I am looking at another person through him." She gradually grew affectionate towards him because of his gentleness. Although she was a substitute, they still weathered many storms together. She endured countless schemes and suffering for his sake: assassination attempts, being thrown into an ice cellar, arson, and being taken hostage, and she remained as resolute as ever throughout the imperial years. He allowed her to maintain her position as empress, despite her lack of offspring, all because of that familiar face. He bestowed upon her all the tenderness he had been unable to give to that young girl from the Lantern Festival. She was lost, utterly and completely, so at the moment of death, she actually wished to be his queen again in the next life. Unfortunately, in his next life, he wanted to give it to the girl he had always kept in his heart, Li Yuanzhao. This life, he had truly been reborn. He first established his merits, then eagerly requested an imperial decree for marriage. In this life, he would finally possess the charming young maiden from the Lantern Festival. He also rewrote her fate of an early demise. When he saw Shen Qingli again, seated gracefully among the noble ladies, his heart remained unmoved, for by his side was already a lotus-like maiden. He gently fixed the hairpin for her. 2 chance encounters, and he always felt that Shen Qingli carried a trace of her former self from when she was the empress in her past life. Could it be that she has also been reborn? But no matter what it is, it has nothing to do with him anymore. The day of falling into the water, he habitually wanted to rush toward Shen Qingli, but he quickly came to his senses. This was no longer the past life, not the life where they stood together. In this life, the true protagonist had returned. Just seeing Shen Qingli being rescued by another man, her drenched body in another man's embrace, he couldn't help but feel a twinge of discomfort. Little did he expect that they would actually become engaged. The moment he learned the news, it felt as if he had been struck hard once again. Feeling somewhat dazed and suffocated, Shen Qingli is going to belong to someone else. Shen Qingli is truly going to belong to another man. That woman who was his for a lifetime in his past life is actually going to belong to another man, he thought. Perhaps it had nothing to do with love, but rather something that was originally his. Even if he didn't want it, it was still his and shouldn't be given to someone else. Once again, he lost control and went to the Shun residence. He saw her indifferent expression and heard her firmly declare her mutual affection with Xiao Yunjing. He had once seen her shy and bashful demeanor. He always felt that in this lifetime, she was too indifferent when she saw him, even deliberately avoiding him on many occasions. He tested her. She heard it, yet she acted as if she hadn't. Ali, the most normal reaction should actually be to turn around in confusion and take a look, not to pretend you didn't hear it. Shen Qingli, she really has been reborn too. Never mind. Xiao Yuncheng, the future chief minister in his previous life, he never married and retired early. In this life, it is fitting for Ali to marry him, and neither of them is at a disadvantage. Assassins attacked. They cooperated skillfully in that moment, holding her body amidst the flashing blades. He too began to linger. After a dazed moment, he finally let go. On the day they were married once again, he felt a sense of being overwhelmed. He has been standing outside their wedding chamber. Suddenly, he hopes for an unexpected turn of events, Shen Qingli might not be able to accept another man. She had called him husband for so many years, and she had blossomed completely in his embrace, with memories of her past life. How could she so peacefully marry another? She truly willingly married someone else. The candlelight flickered, swaying with a lifetime of tender passion. He stood there, inside, never once ceasing. Shen Qingli, she truly belongs to someone else now. A profound sense of emptiness left him feeling. Dazed, he shook his head and turned to leave. It's fine, no problem. Shen Qingli is just a substitute. He has a woman he truly wants. Once he gets the woman he truly wants, Shen Qingli will be cast aside. After all, he was the one who didn't want her at the autumn hunt. Xiao Yunjing called her Ali. Li Yuanzhao had called her Ali for a lifetime. Xiao Yunjing rushed toward her like that, and she gave him such a helpless, doting expression as she wiped the sweat from his brow. Such intimacy and tenderness that once belonged to him, that clearly once belonged to him. On the day of the grand wedding, he lifted the bridal veil and gazed upon that shy, delicate face in a daze. He recalled the day of his grand wedding with Shen Qingli, that nervous, shy, yet earnest gaze fixed upon him in his trance. All he could see were the images of Shen Qingli by his side. Everything at this moment had become utterly dull and tasteless. He suddenly realized, in the years of his past life, the one he was accustomed to, the one he desired, was Shen Qingli. What substitute, what beloved in his heart? The one before his eyes was clearly Shen Qingli. Xiao Yunqing has gone off to war. He couldn't help but entertain a wild thought. Could he take advantage of the situation? She is pregnant. His face was filled with sorrow. The child in her belly could have been his. They could have had a child of their own. At night, he held a woman who bore a 6 or 7 out of 10 resemblance to Shen Qingli, losing himself in intoxication. But this time, he clearly knew it was just a way to console himself. He had no desire for anything beyond giving. Unlike his initial feelings for Shen Qingli, the concubine was actually harmed by Jiang Yunyang. He made proper arrangements for her family. He also dealt with Jiang Yunyang. They meant so little to him, stirring no emotions. Yet the woman who had clearly sunk deep into his bones was the one he himself had given up. Shen Qingli, I regret it. After hearing the 2 stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.